Hello, Amanda Foxon-Hill here from Suddenly Autistic, and today I'm going to talk about sugar and the love affair that I've got and that has been strengthened, I think, through my autism, ADHD, neurodiversity in general, and also through trauma. I'm talking about this from the perspective of a late diagnosed person. It's been 3 and a bit, coming up to 4 years now, and I am really getting in the swing of this life as the new me, or rather the me that was always me but it doesn't need to mask. So that's my perspective, and this video diary is very much that. It's a vlog about me and what I'm finding out and some of my perspectives, so it may not resonate with you. I'm not here to tell people how to be autistic or this is what autistic people do. It's how it manifests in me and what I'm noticing along my journey, and how noticing these things is helping me live my best life. Woohoo! So if that sounds like something you can get behind and get involved in, please do stay with us. Let's get on with the video, and like and subscribe, share it with all your friends, because what better way to spend your life than watching other people talk about how they found out who they were when they were old. Yay! So sugar, a love affair strengthened by autism, ADHD and trauma. I have done experiments with taking big amounts of sugar out of my diet from time to time, and in particular I did a big experiment a few years ago before I had my diagnosis of autism and ADHD, before those, when I'd watched a thing called That Sugar Film, which was talking about the amount of added sugar that we in the Western world are adding to our diets and how it's becoming toxic. I watched the film and bought the book, and I bought it and watched it thinking, wow, there is something in this. I really want to see what happens to me when I eat less sugar. But that was really as far as it went. And I did my experiment. I lasted a number of weeks, and then I decided, yeah, whatever, I'll just go back to eating sugar again. So that was me. But while on that experiment, I was also seeing my doctor on and off about IBS, about my irritable bowel. And I happened to go back to my doctor with this beautiful spreadsheet, or there's a beautiful thorn, anyway, birds in the background. So I'd gone to the doctor for my checkup or for my appointment about my IBS, and I'd taken this spreadsheet about my observations of my mood, my bowel movements, what I'd eaten relating to sugar. So I'd done maybe a 6 to 8 week sugar detox where I'd really reduced the amount of sugar, and as context, before this, I was eating like a 5-year-old at a birthday party. Like I would mainline sugar, basically, like lollies, chocolate, mainly. They were my main vices. So I do like jelly lollies, or I have liked them a lot in the past, and chocolate of all kinds. Yes, that's what my poison was. So anyway, I'd basically gone off them for this period of time and drastically dropped my teaspoons of sugar per day, and done a spreadsheet to outline this and how it had affected me. And I went to the doctor, presented this. They didn't ask for it, they probably didn't want it, but I came up with the conclusion that, look, I took sugar out of my diet and all it did was make me feel sad. I felt like sugar, like taking away sugar, took all the joy. It was like somebody had took a syringe to my brain and syringed out all the happiness. That's what I said to the doctor, and I said to her, well, look, I know it's not a great thing to do, but I think I'm just going to go back to eating it again, and we left it at that. I have a feeling my doctor at the time, who was, probably bemused and a little entertained by my experimenting on myself, didn't really know how to handle that or what to do. And I wasn't asking for anything. I wasn't saying, look, I think this is a problem still. What is going on? So I didn't ask any questions. I'd done this experiment and come up with my solution and left it at that. Fast forward to now, and I am now at the point where I have been mindfully eating, so not really on a diet, but definitely trying to get better. Come November last year, we decided, it would be really useful for us to try and get a little healthy. So we did. One of the consequences of that for me was to really start to address this relationship I had with sugar, and in particular the way that I'd lose my self-control and whatever, and eat big family packs of jelly Haribos and things like that in lieu of a meal. So I'd have that instead. So I really saw this as time. I felt like it was time. So that's what I've been doing. And it's now been December, January, February, November, December, January. Yeah. So we're into the 4th month of that. And this is the longest I've ever gone without craving a lot of sugar. I want to make sure that you understand I've not given up sugar. What I've tried to limit severely is this compulsion to eat big bags of lollies. So that's what I've done. So I've still allowed myself some jam on toast, not compensatory amounts. So I'm not loading up on that. I don't feel the need. So I've lost that need. So something's changed in me. And that's where this video is coming from. It's coming from a place where I've done experiments before. I've been on, I guess you'd say, diets before for various reasons, mostly for healthy eating and trying to get myself back on track with, enough veggies and fiber, etc. This is a bit different, and I've learned some more things about myself, and in particular this link between this love affair that's strengthened, I think, through my autism, ADHD and trauma. I also want to say, before I get into the nitty gritty, that I don't classify this as a cured video. I'm not cured of my sugar addiction. I'm not promising that I'm never going to eat lollies and packs of lollies and lose control and go back to. I'm human, and I understand more than ever that the fallibility, the vulnerabilities of that. What I'm saying is, as I sit here today, I don't have those cravings, and I feel like something's fundamentally shifted in the way I conceptually think, something that I didn't know before. So I didn't have these insights before about why was I doing this behavior. I'm also coming to this from a position that my children, who I brought up 2 children, and they're now young adults, and they didn't display the same relationship with sugar that I did. So that was curious to me. It's like, well, before I'd think maybe it was genetic, because maybe I've seen parents and grandparents do this, maybe, or have different relationships with food. Maybe this is a genetic component. Whereas now I'm thinking, no, I think it's more to do with vulnerabilities and epigenetic triggers and trauma and all sorts. So I realised, it clicked to me probably late last year, that when the world got overwhelming, I turned to sugar. And this started in early life with family dramas and family chaos, and me making the connection now as an adult that whenever lollies came into the picture, so usually what would happen is it would be the end of the day and a parent would bring home a big bag of lollies, or we'd beg them to go and get some. So then they would come back. I'd sometimes go along too. We'd get a big bag of something to share, and it would be the time when we're all together. Now, without giving too much away about my family, there was conflict in there and a lot of arguing and tension and upset and all the usual drama that you get with families, plus maybe a little bit more, I would say. I definitely felt dysregulated quite often in my family system. The lollies coming along at night when everyone's tired and possibly on each other's nerves a little bit, but they came out like a panacea. It was like this liquid or whatever, or sugary medicine that we all shared together. And somewhere deep within my brain, I'd made this connection that sugar is good. It bonds us. It makes me feel loved, welcome, safe. So sugar is safety. So a great amount of time of my life has gone by where I haven't made that explicit connection. Many of my adult years have gone by when I've turned to sugar without thinking, or oh yeah, this was something we did as kids and it was really nice then. It wasn't conscious, it was a subconscious, a deep, deep subconscious thing that was happening. But since then, anytime things got difficult, I would actually feel. I'm a chemist, by the way, so my trade in life, my profession was as a chemist, as a professional chemist, chemistry. So I do tend to think more in chemistry terms than maybe the average person. So when I say to you that it did literally, I'll go to this sort of like your brain, I almost felt the dopamine or the chemistry. I mean, I know that there's a dopamine, I'm going to talk about dopamine later, but I almost felt like my brain chemistry would run out, like as if someone had took the plug off my brain and let all the stuff out. So throughout my adult life, whether I was physically exhausted, mental fatigue, whereas there's too many things changing quickly, which is difficult for people with autism, especially when you don't know you're autistic. Even basic body needs like the need to eat, drink, go to the toilet, sleep, things that I couldn't do or achieve, all those feelings, misunderstanding other people, clashing schedules that you get in a family. When the world was overwhelming, I turned to sugar. And usually what the overwhelm felt like is brain depletion, like the chemicals in my brain had all gone and I needed to top them up. So sugar for me brought not only joy, but also functionality. I could function on sugar. I already said in the experiment I did, and then I went to my doctor and said, I feel like taking out the sugar out of my diet has taken away my joy. I actually could almost feel that in my brain before I understood that there is a link between eating sugar and dopamine hits, that those things are connected. So I could feel it before I could intellectualize it. So this is very much coming from a somatic place, which is unusual for me, because if you've watched any of my earlier videos when I've talked about the body brain connection and whatever, you'd get the impression, or you'd understand, that I have been spent a lot of my life quite disconnected and dissociated from my body. So what I learned about dopamine is that there's everyday things that we can do to help boost our brain positive chemistries, and there's also things that happen to us when we're low on dopamine. So when we're low on dopamine, or when our brain is a bit strung out, that can fuel a very sweet tooth. So it can create a situation where we orientate ourselves towards sweeter foods. It can cause executive function issues. So imagine, your brain's low on chemistry. Dopamine is definitely one of those things that might be running out because of life, because of all these stressors. And then on top of that, I'm experiencing life in a more difficult way because I don't have the dopamine in my brain. So life is depleting it, and then that makes life more difficult. So then it gets depleted. You can see how you could get burnt out. Gastro symptoms, which is one of the things I've been to the doctors with a fair few times over my lifetime, that's part of dopamine depletion. Being forgetful, being impulsive, increased clumsiness, motivational issues, and being very tired. And these are all things that I experienced both as a child and as an adolescent, and then as an adult. And most of my adult life, I've been struggling with these things. So knowing all of that and going, oh my gosh, I can tick all of those boxes. I relate to all of that. Maybe this is what it is. Now, correlation doesn't mean causation. So there might be something else going on for me. It might not just be dopamine that's low in me. My dopamine levels might be absolutely fine in these times and other things are happening. I don't know, but this makes sense. So I'm going with it for now because it kind of makes a bit of sense. And things that can boost our dopamine are walking, playing with pets, and some foods, things like chicken, avocado, almonds, bananas, chocolate, oranges. I put those on my slide that you'll see somewhere because I like those, and I do tend towards eating those foods. Just they're my natural go-tos, I guess. Meditation's on the list as well. I'm not very good at a sit down chanting or quiet meditation. I'm better at active meditation, which I'd say is things like drumming, gardening, like weeding, more mindless or less cognitive tasks and more repetitive tasks. But physical meditation is good for me, and reading a book, which I'm also very fond of too. The biggest way you can get a quick hit of dopamine is to eat a bag of sugar, and I did that too, in spades. I did that a lot. So to sum that up, I think my best theory of why choose sugar, why did I choose sugar, was that I had trauma in my family. My birth family didn't always feel a safe place for me. I don't want this to sound like a bitch fest into my family, because I'm pretty sure that a lot of people would experience that, but I'm entitled to my reality, and that's how it kind of felt. I did have an activated nervous system a lot. I didn't feel particularly safe, and I felt very vulnerable then. Then when this sugar came, and I noticed everybody in my pack, in my family, was kind of happy and we weren't arguing, that set off a link. And I'm a very good pattern spotter, but also have been, for much of my life, very low on emotional intelligence and social cues. So I didn't necessarily know or interrogate why this connection was being made. I would just accept it. It felt good and it kept reinforcing. So sugar makes me feel good. Sugar makes me feel safe. Sugar makes the family happy. Sugar is the solution. And it is a solution if you put it in water, because I'm a chemist and that's what I do. I feel that autism increased my vulnerability to this and strengthened that connection more so than if I had been neurotypical, because of things like the strong pattern recognition plus the weak social understanding and social motivation, which I mentioned before. Sugar is also accessible and socially acceptable, so there wasn't that judgment. I didn't feel myself judging myself as badly. Like, I knew that this wasn't a very mature eating style, especially as I became an adult and had kids of my own, that I have to say didn't have like I said, didn't have the same problems, weren't as dysregulated and out of control with sugar as I was. So I was the biggest kid in the room when it came to sugar. And that was a little bit embarrassing or curious. It made me feel rather curious about why that was the case, I guess. But yeah, it was socially acceptable to a point. It was also reliable and predictable. I don't think we can underplay the sensory issues that come around food for people who are on the spectrum, and me included. That I love fruit, but recently I've been buying blackberries because I love blackberries and they've been quite cheap, really very affordable. But I've had several good punnets and then followed by a few that were terrible, with sour ones and then a few squishy bits. And before you know it, I don't want to buy them ever again. I will, but I didn't want to. You don't get that with lollies. You know what you're getting in every single section of that packet, and that is very comforting. So the fact that just that ticks the box, especially when I also had other digestive issues and food intolerances, so I'd get gas and reflux, gut pains, and other side effects. I can get my daily calorie need through sugar and not have any side effects, or so I thought. I also found the process of just mindlessly eating and having the textures and this somatic experience of eating sugars, the sensory experience, the mouthfeel of chocolate, that kind of thing, very relaxing and calming. So the lots and lots of reasons, I think, why those things were appealing to me, because so many other foods were. I don't think about meals. I get hungry and then I want to eat. I will eat a meal, but the actual process of making it, really, really difficult for me. Shopping for it, oh my gosh. How did I justify eating so badly for so long then? If I was, I'm an intelligent person. I'll own that. I'm pretty intellectually switched on. I know the risks of sugar. I've known them for a long time, and I've watched these films and I've done these experiments, and I've decided, yeah, whatever. Well, a few things. There's a few reasons why I justified it. Firstly, and not leastly, just kicked myself. Was the fact that I haven't had big problems with weight fluctuations throughout my life. Now, I say that first because I think if I'd have put on a lot of weight at any stage of my life, I would have judged myself very badly for that, because I had quite a strong internal judgment of people who were overweight. I don't hold that feeling now, but that is something that I did have and held, I suppose, from childhood and from a learnt behavior. So I'd like to say it's a learnt behavior. I accept the fact that I probably had that internal narrative or judgment for longer than into my adult life, which I should have took more care to dissect and go through. But the bottom line for me is that because I wasn't putting on weight, I thought that I had no problem, that everything was okay. I still looked the way I wanted to look within reason. In general, wasn't a problem for me. I was in the body I was happy to be in. I didn't get physically sick very often, so I felt healthy. I actually have a lot of energy. I'm hyperactive, so if anything, I can afford to lose a bit of my vitality and still be fine because I'm so hyper. My blood work and everything was fine at the doctor's usually. My teeth are in good shape. Sugar doesn't cost much, so I wasn't like blowing the budget. I wasn't losing capacity. In fact, I was gaining mental capacity through sugar. It made me think clearer and better. And I still did the cooking and eating with my family. I felt, why? Why do I need to change this? It's harmless. It felt like harmless fun. It felt like a harmless fix. And like I said, I was gaining a lot from it in terms of mental clarity, feeling like I've filled my brain back up and whatever. Yes, I did used to feel a bit of guilt, I suppose, afterwards, and like I'd let myself down a little bit by speed eating a big bag of lollies, but not to the level that I'd hide the packet. Very, very, very rarely would I do things like that, because I wasn't really focused on what other people thought. These were all my internal things. So, I'd eat a packet of lollies and leave the rubbish around. So people go, oh, you've had a packet of lollies again today, or yeah, didn't you have one yesterday? Yeah, just own it. Anyway, the last thing I'll say is all of this was going on, but I was actually living with toxic hope and being a bit delusional, to be honest. I was hoping that I would naturally avoid all the negative consequences of my behavior and be the exception to the rule. I was really not thinking about it. I was literally believing my own hype that I could eat all this sugar, but kicking the can down the road, because I knew that there'd come a day of reckoning. I knew that there'd be an age or a stage or something would happen that it would be like, oh my gosh, you better look at your diet, because you can't go on like this forever. And to be honest, that also came. So I was when I said we started this eating healthy thing in November last year, that also correlated with me having been put on medication for my cholesterol. I think towards the middle of last year. So a little bit before then, I'd been put on cholesterol medication. I've always had cholesterol that's a little bit elevated and kind of out of sync with everything else, but and then it got to a point where it went up quite a bit, probably because of my age, etc., but also not helped by this. So sugar, like cholesterol, isn't just caused by eating too many pies and cheese and whatever. It's food in general, it's metabolism, but it's also stress. Stress can be a big thing, mental stress and physical stress. So all of this was going on. That was another trigger. So my delusional bubble had popped a little bit with the cholesterol thing. Also, the realization that I'm 50 now, so I'm definitely biologically older than, I'm not a young woman anymore. I have to be a bit more careful. I don't feel as special or different or able to beat the odds as I perhaps was when I was 20, like any 20, 25-year-old. I feel that I've been able to get this far with less cravings and being a little bit more sensible. So I have been more sensible with my eating. I have actually lost a little bit of weight, which is a good thing, because I was a little bit like putting on a bit. But like I said, that's never been the main problem for me. What's more of the problem was just this dysfunctional relationship I had with sugar. And I think the realization that the dysfunctional relationship I had with sugar was actually a proxy for the dysfunctional relationship I had with myself and my family, my birth family, I'm meaning, not the family that I've built. Having unpicked those things a little bit more, the compulsion has gone, the need has gone. It's definitely dissipated a lot. And like I said, I'm not going to sit here smug and say it's never going to come back, because I don't know. I'm still alive. There's still time to fail. But for now, those insights are very, very valuable to me. And I wanted to share them because it might shed some light on someone else's journey. And it's also, I also want to say that understanding some of the reasons, the etymology behind my behavior now as an adult that's persisted all these years, I do believe that knowing why has really helped. And time again in my life, I've been told by people, sometimes people just do things and they never know why. There is no why, Amanda. Stop asking why. I think that in this case, asking why and interrogating that has only bore me good. It's helped me. It's been my saving grace, really. So that's what I want to end on. It's like, don't stop asking why. Probably check yourself that you're not ruminating or just hating on yourself, finding more ways to hate on yourself, but asking why and really interrogating where these things come from really helps. And yeah, the insights that I found along my journey have been extremely helpful. And if nothing else, I've had 5 or so months already, or 4 or 5 months of being a lot healthier than I was before. So that's got to be good and worth something in the long run, even if I can't keep it up. But at the moment, I'm feeling strong. Like, I can keep avoiding eating the sugar because it's not actually taking me a lot of effort to avoid it. I don't really want it like I did before. So long may that continue. I hope that you're well and healthy. I thank you for subscribing, liking, sharing, whatever you do on this YouTube channel. It's much appreciated, and I'll keep coming bringing you the insights that I have when I have them. Thank you.